Hello and welcome to a premium deck profile. Today I want to talk about my choice for Lyrical. This is grade 3 Kairi. This is a significant upgrade on the old grade 3 Kairi, which basically did nothing until Persona Ride, and now this deck actually hits good numbers, has 5 attacks on turn 3, and also has a pretty strong going second game. There are some advantages to playing this over the Grade 4 version. The Grade 4 version is better resource management, but has some inconsistency if it can't Superior Ride up. And the Grade 3 version has access to Persona Ride and some more open slots because we don't have to play these cards that search our Grade 4. They're not mandatory to us. And that gives us a little bit more leeway for what we want to include in the deck and the utility, and also lets us hit overall much larger numbers because we get access to a card that is hard to fit into the grade 4 build. So without any further ado, let's get into the list. Starting with the Ride deck, we are playing one copy of Astasis Mion. This is a mandatory inclusion. You need a card with Astasis in its name from your Ride deck in order to enable one of our effects later, because we don't really want to play any of them in the main deck. But when this unit is rode upon, if you went second, you draw a card, which is the standard effect for all D starters, and the name is really the only reason we're playing it. Then we have Mermaid Idol Sedna, which is a pretty good ride-up card. This has the effect that when you ride over it with Top Idol Aqua, you Soul Blast one, and you look at the top 7 cards of the deck, choose up to one grade 2 or greater unit card from among them, reveal it and put it in hand, and then shuffle the deck. That's going to be really good for helping build our tri-lane aggression on turn 2. It's going to help us find missing pieces. It can even find copies of Persona Ride. Overall, just really solid, and we don't care about the Soul Blast 1 cost because we want to Soul Blast this card out anyways. Then we have our grade 2 Top Idol Aqua, which has a similar effect to the grade 1. When it's ridden over by a mermaid, grade 3, you get to check the top 5 for a grade 2 or greater unit card and add it to hand. No cost on this one, but it's a smaller check. And it's still going to do exactly the same thing. It's going to help us build a board. It's going to help us find important pieces. It's going to help us find Persona. And then lastly, we have the new Kairi, Astasis Triangle Live Kairi. I don't remember what the triangle is supposed to stand for, but I think it did have some other meaning. This has continuous on V. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, all of your rear guards get 5k when they're placed this turn. So that is basically the same as the grade 4 effect. It's really solid. It helps you hit. It's basically plus 10 to every column, which helps you hit good numbers. And it does give this deck some viability going second. And then it has auto on V. When this unit attacks, you choose up to 2 of your rear guards and return them to hand. CV1, and choose up to 2 cards from your hand, call them to open R. And if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets drive +1 until end of that battle. So this is going to give you an easy 5 attacks. You're probably bouncing a column because we have column restanders in this deck. Triple drive is always great, but the thing that might look weird about this is you're essentially paying Counterblast for what grade 4 Kairi just gets. And that's like the weakness of this deck, is that the resources are a bit tighter. But that's fine. As long as you play correctly, your resources won't be a problem. Then at the end of the turn, you choose to one of your rear guards and return it to hand, and if you Persona Road, you choose 2 instead. Really useful effect. That's going to protect our board. It's going to give us extra shield value. It's kind of going to do everything we want. So that is the Ride line, and we're pretty happy with this Ride line. I wouldn't really consider playing anything else, but if I were going to play something else, if I had a gun to my head, I would play the Willista Ride line for better early rush and some card draw. Then we have our Persona Rides, 3 copies of these. Really important to Persona Ride as often as possible. That's going to help us hit our best numbers. And if we're not Persona Riding, why play this deck over grade 4 Kairi? Then we get into our other grade 3 copies of Prism Pearl and Twinkle Powder. This is a set order that has the effect that all of your back row mermaids get boost. We have a lot of mermaids in this deck, don't worry. And then it has an act skill in the order zone. You can Soul Blast one once per turn to give one of your mermaid units 5k power. Just a really nice effect to have access to. Soul can be tight at times in this list, but we have the tools to make it more manageable. But overall, this being able to give grade 2 mermaids boost is going to help us hit tremendous numbers. Then we have our grade 2s, starting with 4 copies of the Pride Cycler, 7 Hues Bridge Lucio. These have the effect that when you discard them to ride, or when you place them, you can reveal a grade 3 in your ride deck that has Persona Ride, or you can have one in play on Vanguard, and you get to Soul Blast one, and you get a Persona Shield ticket. The Persona Shield ticket is a 10k power Blitz order that lets you play another Blitz order. Well, specifically, it lets you play 2 Blitz orders this turn, so you can't keep chaining these. Overall, pretty good. Additional shield is always great. It's a Blitz order, so it gets around certain effects. Just keep in mind that if you want to use Elementaria on the same turn, you need to play this first, get the additional Blitz order play. And then it has a continuous skill that's a bit of a drawback. It has in their hand during a turn, when you discard a card while riding up, or when you choose a card in hand for your card's ability, this card cannot be chosen or discarded. So no using this to pay costs, but that's only during your turn, so you feel free to use it on the opponent's turn for perfect guards. This card also gets 5k when it attacks at grade 3, which is just going to make it a pretty solid attacker. Then we have 3 copies of Dazzle Bubble Paradise Precia. This is the Energy Cycler. It does the same thing, but when you discard it, you spend energy to draw a card instead of Soul Blasting 1 to get a Persona Shield. And then these also work when you place them on G from hand. So when you can block something with 5k power, you get to essentially block for free because you'll replace the card right away. And then this has another useful effect. When it's placed on R, if you Persona Road this turn, CB1 or Energy Blast 3, choose one of your rears, or choose one of your units, and until end of turn, it gets 5k power, and if you chose a rear guard, return that unit to hand from R at the end of that turn. So it's going to help you clear out your board. It's going to give you a little bit of additional power, and this may just be base 10k power, but Kairi gives everything 5k, so it's not going to be the worst. Then we have our restanders, starting with 4 copies of Soaring Bubble Penelope. This is the effect that if you have a Kairi Vanguard, it gets 5k power. And then once per turn, when your other front row rear guard is returned to hand by the ability of your Kairi Vanguard, you can Soul Blast 1 and stand this unit's column. It doesn't have to be in the front row for that effect, which is going to be really great because you can use this as a booster with the set order. It is a mermaid, as is our Pride Cycler, by the way. We're actually going to have a decent number of mermaids in this deck to boost with. And that's just going to help you hit bigger numbers. This lets you bounce a column and play the column on the other side, and then stand this column to get 4 rearguard swings that are all boosted. It's going to be really good for your aggression. Then we have 3 copies of Resonance of Reflection Apoleo. This is the other restander. It has on place on R. Counterblast, choose a grade 3 Mermaid Vanguard from the right deck and reveal it. And if you did, or if you have one on V, you can CB1. Oh, drop the cards. You can CB1 and you can check the top 7 for a Mermaid or for a Prism Pearl and Twinkle Powder. That's the set order, so this is going to help us make sure we have that at all times. And then if you whiffed, you can countercharge 1. That is really nice. It means that you never can waste this effect because you'll always either get a card or you will refund the cost. And then it has the effect that when your other rear guard in the front row is returned to hand by your Kairi Vanguard, you can Energy Blast 4, which is a steep cost, and stand all the rear guards in this unit's column. We'd rather use the Soul Blast over the Energy Blast 4 because it will cause us to run out of energy eventually. And also, this unit doesn't get additional power. So the Soul Blast restander is better, but this is our backup plan. Also, if you can alternate which restander you're using, you can kind of keep the resources flowing for both of them. Then we have our best attacker, 3 copies of Loving Pink Francette. Took me 3 tries to say it, but we got there. The first effect we can't use, we're not on Chris Rain, but the other effect is that when it attacks, if we have 3 or more units with different names, it gets 5k, and if we have 4 more, at the end of the battle, we can choose a different rear guard from this one, and return it to hand. That's again going to help us clear out our board. Bouncing 2 from Persona, bouncing 1 from this, 3 of our units are gone already. Then we have 3 copies of Step by Step Leslie. This is a really good booster. It gets 2k if you have a Astasis Vanguard, making it a 10k booster. And then when it's placed on R, if we have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Kairi in its name, we can choose a unit card with Astasis and its card name from our drop and put it in a Soul. That's only going to be able to target copies of Persona Ride and the grade 0 from our Ride line. So we want to Soul Blast this out and keep putting it back into Soul. And then later, if we get a copy of grade 3 Kairi into drop, we can use that instead. Overall, pretty solid card. This makes sure we always have the Soul for the restand column card, and it's also going to let us use the Pride Cyclers more freely without having to worry about losing all of our resources. It also will enable the Soul Blast on the set order to give power, especially if we can play this multiple times in a turn. That's just going to be really, really good. It just helps everything with making the deck function better, and that makes it one of the best boosters you can play in this deck. Then we have 2 copies of Clear Shimmer Aura. This is a total flex slot, as is the 3rd copy of this card. You can cut it if you don't want it. This card, when the attack it boosted hits, we retire it and we search for any order card and put it in a hand. That can find Regalis Piece, they can find Elementary Sanctitude, it can find our set order. That's why we're playing it. It also makes the Vanguard swing pressure in the early game a little bit better, because getting a 6k boost will still push you into over 15k shield to 2 to pass, which means the opponent has to choose between taking it and letting you have a card, or committing more from hand to guard it. And if they only commit a 1 to pass and you hit a trigger, you hard punish them. You get everything you want, and they take a damage they didn't want to. So that's really all it's here for. It's pretty solid. It finds a lot of good stuff for us. And it's also completely optional flex slot. If you don't want to play this card, play basically anything else you want. Anything that would fit into a Kairi shell. And it'll be fine. But I currently like the utility of having 2 of this card. We also are kind of short on grade 1s, making our early rush weaker than it should be. So playing another grade 1 might not be a bad idea. Then we have 1 copy of Rainbow Jeweled Beast Ulperaze. This card is the Ride Line Returner. Every nation has one. When you put them on R or on G, you put 2 cards from the Ride deck back into the Ride deck from Solar Drop, and then you get one of the effects. If you put on Guardian, you get 15k shield, bringing it up to 20. If you put on Rear, this one lets you grab a card with the same name as your Vanguard from Solar Drop and put it to hand, guaranteeing Persona Ride for the next turn. That's really useful. If we don't have Persona Ride, we can use this to chain together Persona Rides, assuming that one of them is already in play somewhere, and that's going to be a very good effect. Also, 20k shield on Guardians is really good, and if we have all of our cards in our Ride deck in the drop, and we don't need to keep reusing the grade 0 for the booster, Lesity, we can just play this on Rear, get the effect, bounce it with our various skills, and then play it on Guardian in the same turn cycle. Then we have our PGs, 3 normally into PGs. Just pick the one from Lyrical with the best art. Make sure it has the clause that it's free if you have 1 or less card in hand. Then 1 Elementaria. We can play this now because we're not on grade 4, which means that there's no downside here. It's a perf guard that's free if your opponent has triple drive, and it's a blitz order PG, so it gets around a bunch of stuff. Then we have 1 copy of Radiance Caliburn. You can play other Regalis pieces if you want to. I'm playing this one. It has draw 2 or put this card into Soul and countercharge 1. These effects are both really good. Pot of Greed is, of course, a classic, and building resources with this card, it builds both the resources we need. It gives us a counterblast and it gets a Soul. So this card can just single-handedly fix our resource problem in 1 turn if we needed to. And then we have our triggers, 4 vanilla heals. The effect heals are actually pretty good right now, the crit and the restand ones specifically. So if you want to play 2 copies of those, it's fine. I wouldn't play more than 2 because they are only 10k shield in the early game, which means you'll get run over by your opponent's early rush if you don't have any 15k heals. I personally just like having all vanilla heals in my decks because of the consistency and the fact that they're good in every matchup, not just in matchups that have the specific weakness to the effect heal. And then we have our effect crits, 4 copies of Precious Tune Advige, I think, or something like that. These cards go into Soul after the battle they boosted to give something 2k. We don't care about the 2k, we do care about the Soul generation. You don't have to play these, you can play 4 more vanilla crits if you really want. Then we have 4 vanilla crits. Just play whichever artwork you like the most. These are just here so we can hit 8 crits, and they're 5k power, which matters because they'll be 10k boosters after being placed with Kairi's effect. That can sometimes make the difference between winning and losing. And then we have 3 front triggers. Snowskin Palvi. This is the front that gets 5k shield if the opponent's on grade 3 or greater. 20k shield is really useful. This is going to help stop you from dying on turn 3 if you go at second. We don't really need the soul fronts to generate resources. We have exactly enough resource generation to function as a deck without them. So getting the extra shield is more valuable. Fronts are really good in this deck because we will have 2 standing front row units after using Kairi's skill when we go to perform drive checks, meaning we always get the full value from fronts. Then we have 1 over trigger. I'm playing the Lyrical OT. You can play whatever OT you want. It's going to be fine. This card has the effect that if you drive check it, it gives you permanent red text that all of your rear guards get 10k during your turn, which is going to be basically 20k to every column and 10k to the Vanguard if you boost it. That's going to hit really impressive numbers. You can end up hitting in the 70s with that card, and the 70s are like the range of like PG everything or die, and And this also is really devastating to hit early because all of your early rush will no longer be easily guardable, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on the opponent to either dump their hand or to take more damage than they want to, setting you up for an even faster kill. And in the course of a long game, the additional power will also just extract more shield value from the opponent's hand than they can recover and will lead you to a game state where they're out of resources. So the Lyrical OT is good at basically every stage of the game and in almost every scenario, whereas the other OTs give you a chance of killing the opponent right now on the turn you check it. So that is the main deck. Let's show you what an optimal turn might look like. We're going to assume we Persona Road. We're going to assume we've Soul Blasted cards out for various effects. We're going to assume that we have something like this set order in play, and we have this card in play, getting a Persona Shield ticket, and then that we have a copy of this card behind it. We'll have a Francet over here, and if I was being really optimal, I would have another copy of Penelope, but I'll assume it's more realistic right now for me to have one copy of this and a copy of Apoleo. This is going to put a card from the Grade 0 starter back into Soul, helping us have more resources. Assuming this is a Persona ride and that we played everything this turn, we have 10k to the front row. This card gets 5k when it attacks, and then 5k from Kairi's on place, 5k when it attacks, 5k from Kairi's on place, 5k from Kairi's on place, 2k from itself, and then 5k from Kairi's on place, bringing this up to a 15k booster. I'll get the 2k here in a second. There. And then we'll have a 5k from itself and 5k from on place here in the back. This is a pretty good board state. This is hitting for like 45 and 50, I believe, which is going to be more than enough. We can also even out these numbers by Soul Blasting 1 here. For the set order skill, we'll just give this another 5k so that these columns are identical for the ease of calculation. But maybe in some other game, you might want to hit a better threshold, like maybe give the Vanguard 5k or give something else good 5k. All right, so let's get into battle. We'll start by swinging here. This is going to be 20, 30, 40, 50 to Van. That's a really good number. That's going to demand probably 3 cards or a PG to guard. Then we can do the same thing over here, 20, 30, 40, 50 to Van. Then we can swing our Vanguard, boosted of course, and we'll assume we have damage of some kind. I'm also going to assume that I hit 1 front during this drive check. So we would pay the CB for the Vanguard skill, and that would allow us to bounce a column. Well, we'll just bounce this one. This will allow us to replay this column. These numbers will end up being the same because of the various on-place effects. And we can Energy Blast 4 for this. If we don't want to Energy Blast 4 because we don't have the energy, then instead of bouncing this column, we would bounce this one and replay it, and we would Soul Blast to get the same effect. So it's basically just which resource is more precious at the time, which one do you have more of, do you need to pay for energy cyclers this turn while you're guarding, so on and so forth. We'll assume we did the Soul Blast restand in this case. That's going to basically lead to the same numbers, though if we were going to do this without the Energy Blast, we would actually want to put the 5k here. So there's little minute details that you're going to have to keep track of like that. We'll assume for now that I did Energy Blast, actually, and we'll put this back into Soul. 5k amount place, 5k from the effect of that. Yeah. And then this is going to be coming in for 23 plus 15 for 38 with 3 drives. That's going to be pretty threatening. It's going to be really hard for the opponent to 2 to pass that. They're probably going to PG our Vanguard. So we're going to hit a front on the first check. And I'm going to assume we just hit the front. So we're not really trigger sacking the opponent here. We're just hitting one really good trigger. And then these 2 drive checks don't matter. So now we have even better numbers. We want to attack with Francet last in this case because Francet will bounce something. So we are going to swing here for 30, 40, 50, 60 now. That's a really hard number to guard. You have to guard with the OT or perfect guard to hit that cleanly. And then we swing over here for 30, 40, 50, 60 again. These are really rough numbers. So we swung for 50, 50, 38 with 3 drives, 60, 60. That's a lot of shield value out of the opponent's hand, or a lot of perfect guards out of their hand. If we did this while they were at a reasonably high damage, like 4, there's a good chance they're just dead here, especially if they didn't hit the defensive. But in the case that they're not dead, we'll resolve Francette here. And this is somewhat tricky. You want to make sure you have as much shield value in hand as possible, which means you generally actually want to bounce back row cards. So we can bounce this to get its effect again on the next turn. And then at the end of turn, the Vanguard will bounce 2 things, and we can bounce these. This gives us the highest amount of shield value because these cards can still intercept from the front row, but we don't have back row intercept in this deck. So that means that any cards we left in the back row were not shield value. This will also protect the restanders in case the opponent has retire or bind effects. And these 2 cards are basically replaceable with anything that we want to attack with, so it's fine to leave them in play. We don't really care about them getting removed or retired. So that will give us essentially 10k shield here, and then from cards we've bounced, we have another 15k shield. And then we have the Persona shield ticket and the one front. So even with bad drive checks, we still have a reasonable amount of shield, although I will warn you that Kairi does get fake hand syndrome. Because you're primarily checking for mermaids and grade 2 or greater units with your various effects, that means you're not getting triggers or grade 1s or anything in a hand. So if you're not drive checking triggers, that means your hand is relatively low shield value. That's one weakness of this deck, but it's fine because we're an aggro deck. We want to just end the game as soon as possible. So that's the deck. That's what our attack pattern looks like. I think this deck is pretty fun to play, and it's really consistent. It almost never bricks, except when you brick on Persona Ride, which can be quite unfortunate. And it hangs with the 2 best decks in lyrical format. Against Artasaria, you can clear out your front row so that they can't lock anything, and you pressure them just as hard as they pressure you, so you can usually hold your ground against them and potentially kill them on subsequent Persona Ride turns. Against Lishafale, this deck can kind of go toe-to-toe, especially if it goes first. You have a pretty good chance of just killing the opponent on your Persona Ride turn. And if you go second, you can potentially survive their Persona Ride Divine Skill turn if you get lucky with your triple drive. It's a close matchup. I think it's slightly in Lishafale's favor, but if you go first, you can make up that difference, especially if you get some luck with your triggers. That makes this deck well-positioned as one of the 3 best decks in Lyrical right now. I think this deck will also do fine against random Lyrical decks below it, except for stuff that demands tons of shield value out of your hand and can kill you before you get to your Persona Ride. So maybe something like Sharmo is a bad matchup. But overall, as you can see, we hit tremendous numbers. We're hitting in the 50s without any triggers, and that's really good, and we can do that multiple attacks in the same turn. So everything is big. We didn't really spend that much resources. We spent 1 CB on this, and then we spent 2 soul. This was an optional soul blast, so we could have kept it at 1 soul. And we even generated the soul we would have needed with this. If we had more CB, we could have activated this card to try to build a board and generated even more value in deck thinning. And because we check the top pile for so many grade 2 or graders, we can compress the deck down sometimes to hit better trigger chances. Especially with the triple drive, that can be really powerful. But that's all for now. This deck is somewhat expensive. I don't remember this card went down, but at least it doesn't play Yuika. And that's going to save you a lot of money. So bye-bye for now, and I'll see you next time.